It's me again, and this time, first of all, I was asked to stay here because apparently they're video streaming something, so I was asked to stay here instead of walking around a little bit. So I'm going to stay here for a while before continuing on with my presentation. So this section is about all the things that we covered before in the morning, the things that I covered in the morning to use that data. How do cities use it to enhance the citizen experience? I'm sure the mayor here and any other mayor in the world doesn't wake up in the morning and say, well, I want some really high-tech things in the city that will be really cool and give people a lot of high-tech gadgets and so on and so forth. City leaders and mayors around the world, they look at a number of things. And one of the key things they look at is obviously enhancing the city experience, the citizen experience, excuse me. I mentioned earlier about how some cities are creating quasi-corporations that treat the citizen as a customer. So this is where I ended earlier. And again, I just wanted to focus on this part. This is the innovation part. So really, as a large corporation such as the one that I represent, which is Cisco, and other large corporations, we realized whilst there are innovation initiatives within our companies, we realize that the innovation typically comes from entrepreneurs, SMBs, SMEs, startups that deliver services to the citizens and back to the city. The mayor mentioned big data, open data. This is critical in the path to that. And it's those startups and small companies that deliver the innovative services that citizens typically want. So, why do they do smart cities? Again, it's not about having cool gadgets. It's about efficiencies, improving how the city operates, and that in turn reduces costs. New revenue streams. So we all know public sector around the world is suffering from reduced budgets. So how do I enhance that? How do I recover lost budgets? How do I create new revenue streams? Economic growth through innovation. So attracting those startups, attracting those entrepreneurs. A speaker earlier today was talking about brain drain. It's a problem in many, many countries and many cities around the world. People are moving to the startup centers of the world, whether it be London, Berlin, Barcelona, more and more towards the east now, also in Shanghai and Hong Kong, Singapore, Dubai. So attracting talent and retaining talent is one of the key things. And creating that startup culture and that startup environment in cities is one of the key things that retains talents and develops talents, which is what any city leader is looking for. And last but not least is a citizen engagement piece. So a citizen that has transparent access to city services, that has transparent access to city policies, that can even engage on a daily basis in how the city operates, is typically a citizen that is satisfied, that is happy, and that will stay in the city and recommend people to move to the city. So one of the many platforms that are out there, we're looking at something called the Citizen or the City Engagement Platform. The City Engagement Platform is built on a number of premises. First of all, I detect the presence of a citizen. We all are connected somehow. I see a lot of people, with their mobile phones or their tablets or smart watches and so on. So we're connected, typically through more than one device. So I need to understand, where that citizen is. Is he or she at a stadium, at a restaurant, at a bar, at a club, at their place of work? Once I detect, or a public space, once I detect the presence of that citizen through multiple means, I can then start interacting with that citizen, give that citizen access to information, give that citizen access to what the traffic is like, what the best places to go on a Saturday night are, usually simple things, what the matches are, as well as more serious things such as city policies. What are the latest laws and regulations that are coming out? So I start giving the citizen access to these things. And then we have the engagement piece. This is where the citizen, on a bidirectional, say, gets information from the city and starts sharing information. I mentioned earlier the example of traffic. If a citizen sees a traffic problem, he can share that with the city, therefore improving the overall operation of the city and his or her own interaction with the city. Things like This was a program in the UK around public services, whereby if you see a broken light or a piece of refuse, garbage that is not where it's supposed to be, through the government, a specific government portal that they built, you can take a picture, upload it immediately, and then somebody will take action immediately. Instead of having to wait for somebody to come by and find it, and then it takes a whole process of cycle before you act on it. So that engagement, we find, keeps the citizens more satisfied and keeps them more tied to the city and keeps them improves the citizen experience for that particular city or that particular country. So this is actually an actual example that we did with the university in the US. So we created this platform around the campus and the city around it, with the process that I said before, detecting the presence of a citizen, starting to give access or user access to that citizen, or the students in this case, starting to engage with the citizen and the students, and last but not least, using analytics to find out different things of what's going on. A lot of cities today are looking at something called the happiness index. Now, most people are trying to figure out what that means exactly, but it's something that's out there. And one of the things that many of you involved in social media mining, for example, there's a lot of tools out there that measure sentiment. We use it internally even at Cisco when we launch a new product or we launch a new solution. We have our own social media applications that go out all over the world, and they see, well, how do people feel about it? How many negative reviews, how many negative tweets, how many positive reviews, how many positive tweets, and so on. So this gives us a sentiment of something simple as launching a new product. At a city perspective, again, something changes. There's an accident, there's a storm, there's a specific law or a specific regulation that the city is looking at. You can start measuring through analysis tools. Once you have that engagement, you can start seeing, how happy the citizen is, what is the sentiment, do they feel happy being here, do they want to move away? You can get all sorts of things once you start analyzing these things. I know the question of privacy came up earlier, and I get this a lot, so does that mean, I'm going to have everything that I do open to the public? It really depends on what you want to share. I know a lot of us are on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and whatever, but it's all voluntary. You volunteer these things. And a lot of us don't look at the fine print of these things. But again, at the end of the day, it is voluntary. I think somebody mentioned, or I think it was a gentleman from SFBI that said, privacy is dead. I don't know. Maybe it is. Maybe for Generation Z, the younger generation, they're really sharing everything now, but it does cause some issues. What I'm trying to say, it is voluntary. So if you're concerned about privacy, don't share anything. Another concern I get, what about people who are not savvy about technology or not comfortable with technology, whether through senior citizens, people with disabilities of any sort that don't interact well with technology? The ideal place is a place that allows high-tech people to use all of this technology, but at the same time, it allows low-tech engagement with the city through the normal means. So a lot of cities, they go very, very high-tech, or even in companies and hotels, that go very, very high-tech, and they completely eliminate the low-tech. I know of an example where a specific hotel in Dubai, actually, where I used to live at some point in my life, they went super high-tech. Everything inside the room was controlled through a panel, a little tablet. There were no light buttons anymore. You couldn't close the curtain by your hand. It was impossible to do anything unless you mastered this little tablet. And when they started opening, some senior citizens, it was a very expensive hotel, they came into the hotel and they looked at this tablet. They had no idea what to do with it. They couldn't close the windows, the curtains in order to go to sleep. They couldn't switch off the lights. So what they did, they left the hotel. They had a lot of people coming in, staying one night or even less, and leaving the hotel. And then they went back and they included the low-tech. So the citizen experience is not about technology. It's about including the citizen through low-tech means and high-tech means in order to have them engaged and happy. This is an example My time is finished, but this is an example of the sentiment. So you see, the sentiment of citizens, whether they're happy, what type of media they're using, how they're influencing the city, how the city is influencing them. And we talked about entrepreneurs. This is an application that was created by a couple of guys for a project we did in the city of Chicago. So what they did, we used some open data, what the lighting situation was, what the connectivity situation was, what the parking situation, and in a couple of days, literally, these guys wrote an application that was available on smart devices, and you could really see, whatever you want to see, depending on how much open data is out there. So, in summary, to keep a citizen engaged, share data. The mayor talked about transparency, and create that environment of entrepreneurship inside the city. Hopefully, the citizens will be happy, and hopefully they'll be happy to be in that city. Thank you very much.